So that's the issue. Now, the argument against teenage pregnancy is not the argument against teenage marriage. People, the appeal of the argument, most of the time is drawn out of that these people are not matured, they are not psychologically ready, and all that. People will tell you from history. The problem why that argument will not fly in the North is the same reason why that problem did not fly among our grandparents. My own grandmother had her first child at the age of, I think, 18 or 19 or so. But my grandmother got married at the age of between 16 to 18. My grandmother. I saw pictures of my grandmother and my grandfather. Those black and white pictures. My grandfather was 21 when he got married. Do you understand? So if you are arguing on the basis of person is not mature enough,
they will tell you that
people in time past were doing
matured,
that.
Yeah.
My name is Adefolami. Today we are discussing
birth control. We're discussing birth control, reduction of what do you call it? Marriage age, and should I say abolition of polygamy, as it relates to food security and sustainable agriculture in our country and generally globally.
Okay, well, right now, unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of days, you would observe that food prices all across the world are skyrocketing. We're having countries that are projected to go into famine. In large proportion, this has been accelerated by the ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe between Russia and Ukraine. But much more than that, the groundwork had been laid in the past. Lots of countries, particularly in the global south, countries like Nigeria, countries across Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa generally,
Asia.
And Asia, have large proportions of population that need to be fed. Now, some people have made the argument that rather than increase the rate of production, one of the measures of dealing with ensuring that we have enough food for everyone to eat is to reduce the demand for food. That means reduce the number of mouths that have to be fed so that we can deliver a population that can be sustainably fed by current production methods over the course of the next 30 years. Okay, Nigeria is fast projected to have a population of about 500 million people by 2050. All right, and that would make us the third largest country on earth. As it stands out today, we have about 7 million Nigerians who join us through birth, not through immigration, through birth every year. All right, I think that's about double. That's about almost the size of the population of Singapore. Every year, Nigeria is adding larger than the size of the country of Singapore.
7 million.
7 million. So we're having a conversation today to discuss how we can ensure that we deliver a population size that can be sustainably fed by 2050. And some of our arguments are controversial. Some of our arguments are as old as time. Some of the arguments and the dilemmas that we'll be discussing today are the same dilemmas that some of the ancients, as early as biblical times, faced. And those are the conversations we'll be having today. And we welcome you to join us in the conversation in the comments below. So let's jump right into it. So why exactly is this a big problem? I've laid a bit of background, but why is it a big issue?
Yeah, it's a big issue considering the food insecurity we're currently experiencing in this part of the world. And it is not, like as you said earlier, it's not as a result of, although the Russia-Ukraine crisis is part of it, but prior to that, we've also been experiencing rising food prices, and we've not had optimum production that we've not been able to meet our consumption demand in terms of food production and so on. So I think that's why it's important, because we live in a country where the number of births per woman is very high. In some states in the north, it's as high as 8.1. The average number of births per woman is as high as 8.1, 7.1, 6.4, and so on. And we have a very young population.
So wait, you're telling me that in northern Nigeria, we have some states that the average
woman gives birth to 8
children.
Yes.
You're talking about average. That means
Yes.
that if you take out like 20 million women, the average of them, you're having 160 million children from 20 million women.
Yes, that's starts from USAID.
The United States Agency for International Development.
Yes.
Okay.
So and we have that problem. And we also have a very young population. And it's a very young country. We have around 120 million people that are between the ages of, let's say, 0 and 40. So these people will be getting married, will be giving birth to children now, currently, and in 5 to 10 years' time. So if the current trend continues, it doesn't bode well for the future in terms of food production, and there will be hunger, starvation, and it might even lead to death and so on. We're experiencing it now, and it will increase in the future. I think that's why this discussion is important.
And that's the reason why if you live in Nigeria or you live anywhere across Africa, you would notice there's been this gradual difficulty in living standards. And sometimes you can't express it, you can't put your finger upon it, but you find out that every single day you are going to the market that things are progressively becoming more expensive. Let me tell you what's happening. Exactly what's happening is this, is lots and lots of people are joining us. And so you are having competition for the limited food supply that has always existed. Okay, so if your country had like 34 million people like 50 years ago, and you all drew your food supply from a particular portion of the ocean, if your population, like that of Nigeria, has multiplied to 6 times, we have about roughly, it's close to 210 million people. The same 210 million people are drawing their food supply from the same
Existing source.
And so, I am not so sure that food production in your country or in Nigeria has increased 6 times over the past 50 to 60 years. And so those are the challenges we're having, and this is why this conversation is extremely important. So please, let's continue.
Okay, as we said earlier, there are different ways. There are different ways in which birth control can be introduced. We have the use of contraceptives and so on for married couples. That is still, in fact, most of the birth control methods are controversial and highly contentious. They are because of religious and cultural beliefs, make them very controversial and so on.
Exactly what I was going to say. Why would any couple, after getting married, agree to use contraceptive pills or birth control?
It's after giving birth to the required number of children.
Like
the number of children they want to give birth to.
Okay, so now we're entering into dangerous territory, because basically now, what is the required number of children?
That's what I was.
No, I think people have their right in some instance to choose, but I think people also have to look at the realities of their country.
But then if you're saying that they have their right to choose, it means that they're probably going to go with their right to choose before deciding to do whatever it is that is best for the country.
I think education is very important. If people are made to see the dangers of uncontrolled procreation.
You do understand that a typical Nigerian does not care what they see or what they don't see. If you want
I think they care.
You think
They will care. It's just that they've not been that concerted effort from traditional rulers, religious rulers, and so. Let me tell you something that happened on the floor of the House of Representatives. Okay. The majority leader, Honorable Hassan Doguwa, on the floor one day stood up and said that he has 28. He brought his 4 wives to the floor of the House and said he has 28 children. That's the strong man at home and the strong man in the house. And everybody was clapping for him. Like members of his fellow colleagues there, they were clapping for him. And I said, this is a man that is a politician. He has influence, obviously. And if he's saying there and is proud of his action, it means other people, his followers, will also follow that same method. I think
you can take care of them now. You can take care of them. 28
children.
Of course, you can take care of them now. He's spending Nigerian wealth now.
Yes, but the average person on the street cannot take care of 28 children.
And the average man shouldn't follow the step.
But the average man, where he comes from, is aiming to have that.
He has set himself up as a standard.
Let me tell you something. My mom used to travel to the north a lot of times. Then she would come back and say, "I'll tell my other brother that your mate in the north now have like 2 wives and like almost 5-6 children and so on." She would even tell us that some of the people she buy things from, they are young men and they have 2 wives, 3 wives and so on. It's so common and it's so rampant there. So I think if the traditional rulers, the political office holders and the religious leaders. If those, I think we have these people that have a lot of influence, and to some extent they are kind of exposed. That man could not rise to a position in the House of Representatives. He has some form of education that put him there and so on.
How's that going for him?
Huh?
Sorry, but it's form of education.
That is the problem. That is the problem. I think people that have this influence should play a role in advocating for birth control measures.
I'm so sorry. I really think that people in rural communities are going to have major difficulties agreeing or accepting the fact that we're saying, birth controls, limitation in age of marriage, abolition of polygamy. I think they're going to have problem because I wanted to say
I think we should start first with the
Enlightened.
No, I think
they would have
we should look at this issue first from birth control measures, like use of contraceptives and so on. Then before we move to increasing the age of marriage for women, and
I think very fairly, I'm going to say that for the most part of it, people already use contraceptives.
No, you think so?
I think so.
Yes.
Or you use.
I think if you say that people use contraceptives, you have to define what you mean by contraceptives.
Let me tell you,
I'm not in support of what you just said now. Because if people use contraceptive, we won't have
I'm talking about
unmarried people. What about married people?
And I don't think they do.
Yes,
So
that's the problem.
Okay.
So that can is something as abortion.
No.
It's
Contraceptive
it's not
prevents
removal.
pregnancy.
Contraceptive. Let's just break it down. Contra means against.
Yeah.
Then septive means the septive part comes from conception. So contraceptive means against conception. So it prevents the sperm from meeting with the egg, so that babies come. So that's basically what it does. Abortion on the other time is a child has been born, and then you terminate it. So you abort the natural progression. You don't allow the child to progress to a fully formed child. So
so that's that, and there are different methods of contraceptive. We have the condom use. We have pills, use of pills. We have there's one that one get described from there where they will tie the fallopian tube, something like that, for a period of time. I didn't quite understand it, but she was telling me something like that whether they tie the fallopian tube so egg does not.
Yeah, somebody also told me about the one that they put in the arm. I don't know.
There are different.
They are subdermal implants. So basically, most of the contraceptive methods that are available now are based on, because the way a woman cycles, there are two phases of a woman's cycle. Okay, there's a cycle that in which the womb is prepared for implantation. Then there's another cycle in which the preparation for implantation is lost. So, and that's what causes menstruation. So, in the phase in which the woman's womb is being prepared for implantation, somewhere in the to not complicate it, just not to complicate it, the innermost layer of the womb, which is called the endometrium, it becomes very, very spongy. You know what a sponge looks like? Yeah. It becomes very, very spongy, filled with blood vessels, ready to accept a fertilized egg. Yeah. So there are some of these contraceptives that are in hormonal form, in which they prevent that implantation. So that even if the egg is fertilized, if it gets there, there is no nest, more or less, waiting for it. Okay. There are some of them that prevent fertilization. Okay, so there are different forms. There are multiple. The goal of this conversation is not for us to get into the different forms of contraceptive. It's just important for you to know that there are some that function by preventing implantation, and there are some that function by preventing fertilization. So that's it.
So, like, this stuff we're talking about, the birth control and all this stuff, it's more of a religious problem in this part of the world than it's more of a religious problem.
I think yes.
It's not
a
just
cultural-
religious
it's cultural
alone.
problem.
Yeah, it's that's why I said it's
cultural
more
problem.
Because
it's
even
more of a
people who
religious
do
and
not
cultural problem.
believe in people who do not believe in religion, when you talk to them, they still want to have plenty
Yes.
children. So
Yes,
Okay.
it still has to do with
Cultural and religion. So
Yes.
even if the guy goes to school, it's hard to the northern part that you talked about.
Yeah.
Some of them are educated.
Yeah, some of them are
And they still
educated.
strongly believe that, Baba, I can't use all these things you're talking about.
Okay, we can.
It's against my beliefs, it's against my culture. So so that one is already a problem. Even though the guy sent his student to school and all those stuff, that stuff is still there.
No,
It's hard to break away from all those stuff.
even here in the
The-
southern part where we have considerably reduced number of births per woman, I think that was a problem also. Perhaps if you looked at 60 years ago, it was a problem. But with the level of enlightenment and exposure and acceptance, I think it has helped a lot. Let me tell you something. If you look at the south and look at the north and you look at the level of education in the south and level of education in the north, it reflects in so many things. It reflects in poverty, it reflects in the number of children they give birth to, and so on. I think if these people are that, if education is that widespread, I'm not saying it's not widespread, but we use like I said, the traditional rulers and the religious rulers and so on to preach this message that this thing doesn't bode well for us. Culture is dynamic. Culture changes from time to time, and it's something that can change. Yes.
So okay.
Okay, and if you want to tackle this correctly, on the average, how many, as a married couple, how many child are you allowed to, or do you, as in, are there
The average
numbers of childbirth?
Like research shows that the ideal family, according to the research that they did, I don't know when they did this, but it's 2, like family of 2 children.
Population has to grow. If you have a
It's
family
what
of 2 children, I think population will be constant.
People see.
It will shrink if you have a population of 2 children.
Yes, it will shrink, right?
It's what people
I
see
think
as
it will
ideal.
have- it should be like 3 or 4.
But let's start. How many children would you want? And I know you're not married.
But I would like to have just like 1 or 2 children. I don't like
I'm sure
many.
they'll be there.
already said
Exactly,
that.
just want to really nice.
It's because you put on podcast.
No. It's something I've said
You
before.
How about
already
you?
mentioned it before.
Baba is 4.
Okay, for that's good.
All this one thing about talking about. So I don't
Considering-
know. I would love. I might change another line, but for now, at least,
Okay.
I would love.
Considering the trend with which the economy is going, I think 2 is good for me.
But
Yes,
if the
consider
economy was
present
not
economic
going-
realities.
There's a sharp divide between people who live in cities and people who live in rural communities.
Yeah, I know that. Like for
And
example,
recently,
I think
Okay,
that should lead us to the age of getting married, especially for young girls, for girls.
before we get there, there's something that is happening recently that the United States they ban abortion.
Yes, the
For-
reverse,
Yeah, they reversed it because they were saying that
reverse
They
the
didn't ban abortion.
Like
they
they
reversed,
reversed- yeah,
they reversed the policy
or
of the federal government for providing abortion as a
Yeah.
form of birth control, and they handed over the decisions back to the state
states,
government. That's basically what
so
they
they
did.
were trying to because I get this stuff. So they said that the black population is getting more than the white population. So they want the people that
I think funny enough,
out of
it's funny
every-
enough that move was championed by a lot of white people.
so
Yes.
that out of every like every 10 white girl that's going for abortion, it's just 1 or 2 black girls that are going for abortion. So like the population of white is shrinking, and white people commit more abortion than black. So that's why they. So I'm just trying to tie it to this.
Do you have a response to that?
You have an
That's
idea.
what
You-
he just said.
No, she.
No,
So
she- yeah,
Oh,
she-
no, I don't, because I got very, very confused when you were trying to break it down.
Well, the truth of the matter is this: if you also consider the population, all right, you have more people of white ancestry or who identify as white in the United States than black. So naturally, that proportion would
Yes,
you'd expect that
more
proportion
whites
to
should go for abortion. Yes,
you expect
because
that
there are
proportion
more.
to carry over. I don't think the black population are they up to 20%. I doubt it. So I think they are
No, they're
barely-
increasing now.
all right, but however, I would tell you this. What I would say is this: it's known that the more educated a society becomes,
The less-
all right, By education, I mean Western education, because you mentioned something earlier that they are not educated in the North. They have a form of education.
Yes, they have a form of education.
They won't
That's
agree
sure,
with you on that. Their form of education will not just match up with Western standards
yes.
of education.
But I know about that. They have a form of
And
education.
having a large population for some of them also ensures a form of security. You need to understand that if you come from a culture where you've historically been raided over and over time, and you don't have a reliable police force or a reliable military that you can call upon, the answer to that is what? Let me create my own people. And so a man would want to have, like, if he has 4 wives, and each of his wives can give him 8 sons, that's 32 sons. Within the space of 16, 17 years, he has an entire army in his house. Anybody wants to go and invade that kind of...
But the North has always been peaceful. At least it was one of the most peaceful parts of the country for a considerable... prior to the insurgency, Boko Haram insurgency.
I think your definition of peace is different from what people... The northern Nigeria has always been a bastion of wars. They call them conflict, but in reality, they've had wars in northern Nigeria.
It's religious wars, actually. Not
Necessarily religious.
Not
You've had tribal and ethnic conflicts. The nomadic, and I don't want to go into this, but you need to understand that you have some tribes. There are parts of northern Nigeria that have no bearing with what they used to be. I don't have the exact details at my disposal right now. But even down from the time of Usman Dan Fodio, wanting to set up his caliphate and all that, all across northern Nigeria, till present day, you've had all manner of conflicts. The conflicts you are seeing breaking out now did not just start now. A lot of them are rooted in history. But people who come in just want to come aboard and bring modern solutions to... In the ancient times, some of the fight that they fought with daggers and with bows and arrows. Some of those people who descend from a lineage of warriors, now they have access to guns. That's just different. But let's just put that aside, because that's not the scope of the conversation we have right now.
Okay, so we'll now have to move to age at which girls give birth. Although it is 18, but in many places of this country,
Give birth or get married?
I think it's give birth. Although it is 18, but in many places of this country, I think it's girls give birth younger than that. And it's not helping matter when I remember I was watching AIT. I was in secondary school. I was watching AIT. A senator from Zamfara State was supporting marriage of girls below the age of 18. In fact, even ended that interview by inviting the interviewer to the wedding of his daughter, who was 16 years old.
That's a shame.
move.
Okay, so let's ask. You said that's a shame. Why is that a shame? Why is that a
exactly
shame? I
my
just want to
problem.
understand.
Because I feel like a girl who is 16 barely knows what marriage is.
It's your feeling.
It depends on how she was raised now. It might be depends on how she was raised. It might be that
You have to
it might
move
be
close
that
to the mic.
It might be that she has been prepared for
How
marriage
can you be prepared
right
your
from
whole life for marriage?
what
Just what is that?
It's you that
that's-
it's just a belief. It doesn't affect other people.
That's shaking me.
Are you serious?
well that's the reality. They believe that when a girl has gotten to reproductive age, then she's ripe for marriage.
Oh wow.
Yes, that's a belief.
That's the belief, and
And you can't force them because they are not wrong. You are not right.
Interesting.
That's the problem. Yes, now I don't want to.
No, I want to understand the basis for, because I hear this argument that children should not get married early.
Although
You just
Or-
call them children.
Yes, I heard that argument that children, and I use the word children because according to the laws of our country, all right, you are not seen as an adult until you reach the age of 18.
Yes.
Okay, so I've heard that argument that by the age of 18, that's when adults will start. There are other countries where
It is
the age of
It's not
maturity,
like that,
the age of,
exactly.
in fact, they call it the age of majority. Okay, there are other countries that say the age of majority is 16 years.
Yeah.
Some other
I think in
countries
the
is-
UK, 16 years.
Okay, so the question I have is this: why exactly are we saying what is the issue with
Getting married early
getting married
or
early?
giving birth early.
I-
I think.
No, I'm putting it to her because she raised the point, and I
Yeah.
just want to understand what the issue is.
Personally, I just feel like at 16, I don't know. I've never been married.
Yes.
I believe, but I just feel like at 16, I don't. What am I supposed to do? Like, what is she supposed to do?
You're just finishing secondary school and
No, it's you that just need to talk.
I want to understand. Listen,
Why?
because
Why?
You are that age.
because you
Exactly.
need to understand that if you're going to have a conversation with people, okay, you have to get to the roots of
Of the
their
matter.
belief system. I want to understand the root because the person that you're speaking to also would also hold his own belief
exactly.
there. He just mentioned that a particular senator invited the interviewer to the wedding of the daughter who is 16. The man is so sure.
Yeah, exactly,
This is
exactly.
the next thing.
He's sure. You get so, and those are the people who are making laws, and they form the majority in their house.
Oh, so-
People from the northern part of Nigeria form majority. So effectively, so if you are going to make an argument, what you can't make the argument on the basis of your feelings.
Your feeling, exactly. That's my
You can't
point.
make an emotion argument, appeal to emotion. So what exactly is the logical basis for you saying that somebody who is not yet
16.
18
You know,
should not get married?
It was
Exactly.
very-
Yes.
sorry, guys, please hold on. I just feel like at 16, okay, I can't feel, obviously. Pending the time that I go look for a more sustainable argument, I really don't think that a 16-year-old should be getting married because, firstly, I don't think she's exposed enough to what real life is.
Are you serious?
Like, and I feel like she should be getting an education.
the
And
process
I
of-
don't
Why
know,
do you feel
maybe-
she's not exposed to what
Exactly.
life is?
That's my problem.
How long does it take to get a child exposed?
18 years old, 14 years old. Some of them
exposed. I'm not
are more
exposed
exposed than you. Are you
Oh,
serious?
I'm just marriage feels like a lot for me.
Well, that's you.
Sorry, the problem is
And
this.
I also wanted to
No,
ask.
let's
I also wanted to ask if medically is there a complication for getting married early? You know, because that means I should marry now. Obviously, don't knock you into childbearing. So
There's complication for getting married
Late.
for getting married late. Exactly.
I'm not
Alright,
talking
so-
about early.
There's a
That's-
big
Yes.
I
For
know,
getting
but
married
I was
late,
talking-
late,
I know about
So-
that one, but I was talking about getting married
I think
early.
it depends on how early. But let me tell you the reason. One of the reasons why I think they say they should increase the age of marriage for women, especially, is that
Okay.
by increasing the age of marriage, you shorten the duration of childbirth. So they
Shorten?
won't have, yes. For example, if women were getting married at perhaps let's say 15, 16, and you put it at 18, for example, you've reduced 3 years, and 3 years can add one, and one in like 20 million women. It's like 20 million extra people.
Okay, I think the way you phrase that your argument, because you lengthen the spacing between childbearing, not shortening because shortening duration of childbirth means that they're giving birth more frequent. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, yes, lengthen it, yes.
Are you
No,
assuming that the woman doesn't have control over childbearing for you to be saying that?
yes, let's assume she doesn't have control.
Of course,
over-
she has now. Oh, assume women have.
She doesn't have
over
control. I don't understand what you mean.
Like she's saying that anytime the man wants to give birth, they give birth without.
No,
women have control over childbearing.
most of the time, everything being equal, a woman can even be giving birth every year.
But she has control. She can feel. She can tell her, let's not have children now.
What if the
Just-
husband says,
Which other than marry you at 16?
Other than marry you at
you
16 will say that.
Yes,
No. Okay, so let me
Are you serious?
let me just come here right now. So because I wanted to see as much as we could harvest out of this conversation. Okay, so first I would say that the younger after following puberty,
yeah,
and for a lot of women by the age of 11, 12, 13, they enter into puberty. Some people is as late as 17 years, but most women by the time they age 12, there are lots of ladies now by age 12 they start seeing their menses, which means that they're already ovulating, which means that the womb is ready to carry a child. Now, physically, they may not be able to bear the burden of having a child physically the way their 21-year-old counterpart would.
yeah.
Okay? Because it would draw a lot of resources from them. However, all around the world, it's generally agreed upon or accepted that a girl that is 16 years old, okay, can carry a child.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, teenagers are actually more fertile. They're in fact one of the most fertile because, and around that time, there's the belief that there's not enough psychological maturity to control the usual urges that come with.
Yeah.
So that's why you find out that, and a lot of, because it's for a certain number of women around the time in which they are ovulating, they also want to have sex. They become horny for a sizable amount of women when they are ovulating, when they are releasing eggs and all that. At their most fertile period is the time in which they want to have sex. Okay, so there's a very high tendency that when a teenage girl wants to have sex, all right, it would coincide with the time in which she likely will get pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nature's design. So if you go by that, there's a very tendency that a teenage girl, all right, will conceive when she has sex.
Yeah.
Okay, unless she's on a birth control pill. So as a result of that, because younger women are much better than much older women, so if a woman starts bearing children early, there's a natural tendency that she can, like you said, she can bear children, all things equal, from 16. She can early every year. In fact, it's not unusual. If you check most people who are married, even people who are much older, it's not unusual for them to have the first child and the second child being very, very close in age. Married couples will tell you that you see married couples in which the first and second child, the age gap between them is 9 months, 10 months, 1 year.
Sharpshooter.
You get. I have my two younger brothers. The gap between both of them is 10 months. That means that my second brother was conceived when my first brother was
1 month old.
Exactly. You understand? So, if you have that without any form of birth control in perpetuity, it means that within the space of 10 years, you can have 10 children. You have 10 people. As you are now, you get married there, 10 years time, a decade from you already have 10 people in your house.
That's an army.
10 soldiers.
So they plus.
All right? And they will be eating all the food. So that's the issue. Now, the argument against teenage pregnancy is not the argument against teenage marriage. People, the appeal of the argument most of the time is drawn out of that these people are not matured, they are not psychologically ready and all that. People will tell you from history. The problem why that argument will not fly in the north, okay, is the same reason why that problem did not fly among our grandparents. My own grandmother had her first child at the age of, I think, 18 or 19 or so. But my grandmother got married at the age of between 16 to 18. My grandmother. I saw pictures of my grandmother and my grandfather. Those black and white pictures. My grandfather was 21 when he got married. Yeah. Do you understand? So if you are arguing on the basis of person is not mature enough,
they will tell you that
people in time past were doing
matured,
that.
Yeah.
And you look at those grandparents, they were matured. So you can't. The argument is not on maturity or mental maturity, because the argument is on. The argument has to be a social and economic argument.
And the resources.
You have to explain to people, showing them that the resources are available. All right, it's going to cause problems for you. And even at that argument again, it's also hard, because if you're in a rural community where people grow their own food, they will tell you that the more children I have, the more food I can grow.
The more hands I have on the farm.
So
and it's a retirement plan for some too. Like you said in that document that you said. Yeah, of course now.
If you born 20 children, 15 will succeed.
Do you get it's a retirement plan? Okay, but what if I born 2 and 2 fail? It's game over for me now. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying did you get so some people see that way. That, if I born 2
and historically, the infant mortality was extremely high. So in the past, people would give birth to like 11 children, and sometimes
5 or
8 of them would die.
Yeah.
For example, I would also speak from personal example. My grandmother had 11 children. 6 of them died. Only 5 survived.
Wow.
So that's what shaped their mentality.
Yes.
So
yeah.
You get now in today's world now, all right, family plan. How do I pay now?
Access to healthcare.
Healthcare.
Yes.
People are
and
surviving.
immunization has come in, so that all the children that would have died in times past, they don't die. They are surviving. But yet the same idea of having multiple children still persists.
Oh boy.
So in solving one problem, you have created an entire.
You just get show up in the middle of night.
So your reason.
Argument was an emotional one.
Argument is the usual argument that they give in schools, and it's a good argument. It works for some people.
And I think
the person is not mature.
I think giving.
It's just that when an argument meets with somebody whose mother, all right, gave birth at the age of 13, Your argument falls flat because person thinking, what are you saying? My mother was. I met a young man recently. I think I introduced you to him. That young man that said that he programs or he codes or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
That they were having conversation. And then I was talking to him and I asked him that. So we were just talking. I was like, okay. So I asked him. I don't know where the conversation was, but somewhere along the line, he told me that he was driving his grandfather's car, which caught my attention because, like, said he was driving his grandfather's Lexus. So you're driving your grandfather's Lexus? I said yes. That your grandfather, that you're a big man, or that did you inherit it? And he said no, he did not. That his grandfather gave it to him. I said, what does your grandfather? He said his grandfather is a federal civil servant. I said was. He said is.
He's still alive.
So your grandfather is still in the civil service.
Yeah.
I said how old is this your grandfather that is in the civil service? He said his grandfather probably maybe like 59 or so. Your grandfather is 59. How old is your
The guy
mom?
is around 22 or 23.
He's 22.
Yeah.
He said his mom is maybe 39 or almost 40. I said, so let me get you right. Your grandfather had your mom when he was 18 or 19. He said yes. His grandfather got married at that age. Then your mom had you when she was like 18 or 19 years. So your grandfather is alive, your father is alive. He said that they're even pressuring that you should get married. So that particular man is going to see his great grandchildren.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Within the space of
80 years.
So when you are, if you now
He's
meet
the happiest man, guy.
if you meet that kind of man, you meet that kind of guy now, you're not telling him that you should not marry an 18-year-old girl. Yeah, I was like, who else am I going to marry? I'm 21. Am I going to marry someone who's 25? 25?
Well, I think
So-
another argument for including the age girls marry or give birth is that most of the time at 16, the girls are not economically empowered.
Okay.
And that's a problem. If women are not economically empowered,
And
that's a problem.
that's
If they
a
lose
standard.
if they lose their spouse, it means the children are going to suffer and they won't be able to
carry them to another
provide.
country.
And if they don't lose their spouse, they become in the
No,
house.
it's also sometimes
That's what I'm talking about.
one source of income does not take care of family needs.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes for some people.
All times.
But you are speaking
not
also
all time,
from
no.
the perspective of a city dweller. If a woman is 18, let me tell you, at what age do you think is the best age to do farm work? Have you done farm work before?
Yeah, I think young people are the ones that will do.
So
farm.
Have you ever tried doing farm work from age 40?
We have not been 40.
Yeah?
We have not
Okay,
been
well,
40.
do you know people who have done farm work from age of 40? Upwards?
I know of my uncle, but he stopped. I think
He stopped.
He doesn't.
The best
do
age
that
to do farm work, ideally, is from the age of 13 to the age of probably 27 or so. That's the best age.
to get me.
So now, if a woman who is 16-year-old, all right, wants to continue to eat in a place where it's rural and they don't have tractors and all that, it will make sense for her. It's an economic decision for her to have lots of young men within the age of 16 and 27 who are living close to her.
Economic decision.
It's economic decision.
So
Just in case, because our own husband in question, our husband that you're even talking about, this husband you're talking
Yeah,
about,
they do.
may also be 21.
Yeah.
So the question is it advisable to
But
take-
I think provision for children, even for in rural areas now, are just gone beyond eating food. It's education, healthcare, and so on. I think
is it
just-
advisable with all this? Is it advisable to take to consideration birth control?
I think
Baba,
for me,
The doctor is saying that because there's
But no,
but
see,
it's detrimental.
provision for children goes beyond just food. It also involves a good roof over their head, education, healthcare, and so many
It's free
other things.
education.
Yeah.
Eh?
so what
It's
is,
free education,
what is
though.
the
It's
most
Is it really free? Do you know how much
effective
my sister was paying in federal government college? It's free.
No.
They say it's free.
So your own education for
No, I'm saying
Oh, it's
federal
not in the
government
village.
college. It's a
free,
government
not
school
part of
now.
the country.
your
No,
own
let me
education
tell
is
you,
different.
They don't pay school fees, but you have to pay a lot of things. You have to buy books. You have to. Let me tell you, government have abandoned those schools, and that's why they are in the state they are in now. So
Those books are
Okay, so my
they don't have
question
the
is-
book
You
of
don't
the book.
even need both.
I don't need the book now.
My question is, what is an effective way or an effective method to appeal to people in rural communities when you're talking to them about cutting child marriage or early marriage? What is an effective way?
Like I said,
I don't-
it's only probably
don't-
from this base of the economy. And it can't appeal to all of them.
Did you
Let
hear
me
what
tell-
he said?
Yes, no, it can't appeal to all
Let
of
me tell
them.
you, I don't think if you go
You
there,
get-
they will take you serious.
They can't take.
I
you
think they will take the
seriously.
people that have influence over them, their traditional rulers, their,
Yeah.
And
their
that's the
religious
problem.
leaders.
Because
Those are
they
the
are
people that have
capable
influence over them.
enough
Even
to
these
shoulder the
traditional
responsibility
rulers.
with
Yeah, and one thing you have to also understand is that traditional rulers are polygamous. You only see
Yeah, so
the
it's-
traditional
yes,
ruler
but they
has
have
one.
this thing, the necessary equipment to
Okay,
that for
they
them.
have the resources to
Yes.
take care of their. Yes,
and
that's
compared to another
Can
man.
can them listen? Okay, so this issue you raised about polygamy from the document that we referenced, and the document is I'll put it up on the screen right now. It's a very very old document, but if you have time, if you are watching this document, if you are watching this, you can take out your time to just go and check the document. So this is it. It's a document that was published in November of 1964. Okay, by Riyad B. Tabara. It was on birth control and population policy. And this document that we're talking about has formed the bedrock of a lot of population control and Planned Parenthood work that's been done over the past couple of years. And there's some controversial things that are discussed within this document. Some people have actually they have debated and debunked some of the findings inside. But it's a good starting point because it shows you the kind of mind that people had about 50, 60 years ago. Now, this particular document is saying that, contrary to what people believe, polygamy
yes.
reduces the amount of children that is born.
I think the document gave a very sound reason for that.
That senator that you mentioned,
Yes.
if there were 4 men that married 4 wives, they will have more. That's the argument of the documents now.
That's the argument of the document, yes.
Yes.
But that man I think he had 28 children, and there was a time it was announced in the news that one of his wives has given birth again.
The good news.
What this document is saying is that
Is
if you have one man
that
marries five women,
Yeah.
and each of the women choose to have 4 or 5 children with him, that man, total, with his 5 children, with his 4 or 5 wives, would have had how many
16,
children?
20.
Would have had
16, 20 children.
20 to 25 children.
Yes, 5 boys.
He is now saying that
Okay, 5 to 4.
if that same man had married just one wife, and with that one wife, he wanted to achieve that large population, he probably might have decided to have almost close to 8 children.
Yeah.
If 5 men should marry 5 different wives,
and having
and
8
children each,
They'll have like
they would have 40.
40 children.
So he's saying that when people say that polygamy, some people say polygamy
It
increases
increases the
population.
population.
It increases the size of that household.
Not general
But the
population.
general population, it reduces because all those women will not give birth at the same rate that a single man with only one wife will give birth.
And it helps society, it helps the women who are looking for husbands. So. Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I said that population. When you talk about population policy, it's controversial because a lot of people will tell you, and these are things I've heard from the mouth of people. A lot of people will tell you that a woman in between a woman's legs is the gateway from heaven,
Okay.
and that what you want to do is you want to stop people from coming to earth from heaven. Basically, you want to stop God's work, and they won't allow you.
We're not stopping people, we're just reducing the number.
alone do.
Well, that's it. That who are you to put a toll gate on what God has given freely? So that's the first. Then second thing, and this is the last story I will tell and all that before we make our closing argument. I knew of a particular. We're having this conversation somewhere, and in that conversation, there was a policeman there. It was around the time in which there was this child. A particular child marriage case came up and all that.
Okay.
And so there was a policeman there. And as people were talking and all that, I just noticed that one of the people there was looking at the guy, he didn't say anything. Shortly after the policeman left, one of the persons said that the reason why I didn't join this conversation, you see that policeman that just left here, that you guys are talking child marriage, he's going to the village next week and he's going to go and marry a new wife, and his wife is 12 years old.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you need to understand the reality of the country you live in, and there's no one blanket fits all. Nigeria and most nations in Africa, for those who are watching this podcast, is not a single country. Nigeria is a union of multiple nations. We don't see it that way. Okay? When the British left, they took what were multiple nation states and they merge them together. And the system you are trying to run, and that's why it's so difficult, because as you are speaking and you're trying to say, then you're saying this is what a Nigerian should be like. People are telling you that who gave you the right to determine. And then finally, my final submission on this is this. It's not just economic, it's also political.
Yeah.
People from large population areas in a world of democracy have every incentive to keep having more people.
Yeah.
Because they are producing larger people that will be ready to vote in election. And they're producing larger population that during times of census will get a larger share of the country's resources.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, I know there's a political angle. I remember, in fact, this is even funny, but there was a time the children pastor in my church, she was, I think they announced people that gave birth, like, I think that Sunday, like 3 women gave birth, and said, yes, very good, we'll have more people to vote during election and so on. So I think she just said that, but I think that is what a lot of people put in. Look at that man, for example, that man already has like, let's say 28 votes.
Wow.
28 votes.
He can win a local government if any of his children contest
Yes,
for
they can win.
councillor.
They can win. They can, yes, 28 votes in the ward. If you have 28 votes in one ward, how many votes do you need to become councillor in that ward?
You just need to go to like 4 or 5 of your friends.
That have
Or
like
brothers,
that same
your
number.
brother has 5
Same
friends. 28 of them times 5. You've won now.
You won the election.
It's not.
So people do that. There are political undertones to it. For also census and revenue allocation. You know, one of the parameters for resource allocation is population. They use population. So states that have high population, they tend to give them more resources because they have more people to take care of and so on. So I think that's
So
also,
I feel doesn't matter in this conversation.
This is the dilemma. Anybody who has to run anything
a
public, multicultural organization, or anybody who has to run a society, and you have lots of people, or you're in the political process, this is the headache. This is the particular headache they face, because there are no simple solutions. Okay, but a couple of prescriptions here, and these are the prescriptions that we have. The first prescription is that there has to be concerted efforts, okay, to raise the age of child marriage. There's general acceptance that the idea of allowing states to get married, people are required by law to have a license. I think in the license, if citizens are below the age of 18, okay, we have to put concerted measures in place to ensure that they are not allowed to get married. We get them to wait until they are age 18 before they get married. Secondly, there probably also has to be subsidies for contraceptives, because right now as it stands, even for married couples, for those who do not want to use the injectable, or who do not want to use the IUCD, if they want to use condoms are extremely expensive. In the cities, I don't know about in the rural areas, but in the cities, condoms are expensive.
Why is it true?
It's extremely expensive now.
I just to confirm.
Depends on the product.
Why is it true?
unless you want to use a nylon or something, but it's...
And even contraceptive.
Okay.
I struggle with this all the time.
Okay, contraceptive.
It's even worse when I try to taste it.
What was you trying to say yesterday?
I forgot it.
Don't worry, don't let it go.
Even contraceptives are more expensive, so.
You get, so we need to look into
expensive
that.
are they?
But I think if you say contraceptives
pills are
are more
expensive.
expensive, I think
The pills-
raising a child is more expensive.
No, you
Taking
need
care
to
of a
understand that there's
pregnancy
some
is
things
more
that are cheap.
When
to
last did you buy that?
enter, expensive in the long run.
That's it now.
And that's what having a child is.
Yes.
Having a child is not expensive
2 years.
at the beginning.
Yes.
Having
you
sex
sure?
is not
That it
expensive.
wasn't.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know the current price of one contraceptive?
It should be around like the last time I got it was 1,000.
And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When I,
Which one? Which are you talking? Which are you talking about?
Personally.
Contraceptive.
They're sort of.
You guys are just kicking
They
the.
are not.
I should ask.
Well, this is actually the podcast. This is a professional podcast, so I don't want to enter you, but
okay.
I should ask Oji.
What?
because I think
we're having
He went on
a
the-
formal conversation rather than face the conversation. You are doing
You're
your
attacks.
you're low key pretending as if you are not fornicating up and down.
Oh.
We know who is growing when trumpet blows, so just.
But that's not.
I'll just drop the tab and go. If for the podcast.
All right, let's get back into it.
Okay, so contraceptives generally are expensive, and so
Very,
most
very.
people, unless you, I think I heard somebody say once that he went to buy condoms on credit or so.
Wow.
Better that way.
He was paying the aboki,
What you want?
paying the aboki in installments.
It's better. It's better now.
We may also have to look into that.
But
May
they
have to-
do share free condoms most of the time. So
Bye.
Yeah.
but most times,
Yes.
married couples do not tend to use them,
Yeah.
particularly up north. So that's the
Yes,
issue.
like it's not the pleasure people say that the pleasure they derive.
I used people of experience.
No, people say like if
He was
you
already
people,
talking and he said
no, if you meet people say that no, I can't use it because the
But
pleasure
then
they
what
derive.
do you think?
But let's end the conversation, please.
All right. So
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us for this podcast.
Yeah.
We've made our policy recommendations.
Okay.
And then we'll look to see you on the next one. It's a Dark Pause show. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us, policy@darkpod.com. So, and then we'll receive your emails with regards to this particular conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Yeah.
Adios.
Very, very